Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Soccer Queens podcast. We have our second roundtable episode, and this is a rock star roundtable with two friends of mine, but also amazing coaches, two young athletes. And I'm so excited because they're mother-daughter combination. So this is going to get really interesting, but just all of us combined, we're going to talk about over 3-4 decades experience, maybe even more, of coaching and being a female coach in a male dominated industry. But I'm just going to say right off the bat, I haven't really thought of it that way. And that's kind of where I want to take this discussion, because I really want to encourage young girls to get into coaching and to pursue what they love. I see teenage girls on a daily basis and they want to get into sports medicine or coaching or physical therapy. And this conversation is all about giving them hope and giving them encouragement. So let's introduce the guests. So we have Eugenia and Gena Bradshaw, mother-daughter combination. And why don't you guys just give just a quick bio on what you're up to today and who you work with? So I'll have let's go Gena first.
Okay. Thanks for having me back on. I'm really excited. Let's see. Lots has happened since the last time I've been on here. Okay. So I'm a coach at our family fitness business, Bradshaw Personal Fitness. I am also a published author of A Survivor Story, a holistic healing journey through cancer. Also started another business called Holistic Human Performance, where I focus more on the holistic health route, where I combine fitness, nutrition, and meditation. And also co-host with my girl, Erica, on Girls to Queens.
Yes, we do have another side podcast called Girls to Queens. So just go check it out. I'll leave it at that. So Eugenia, how about yourself?
Okay, my name is Ioio-Bradshaw. I've been in the health and fitness industry for well over 30 years. I don't ever add years on because then it just makes me older. So I always say over 30 years. But aside from that, I'm the head coach boys track and field at Holy Trinity High School. I've been coaching high school track and field for 16 years. And that's really one of my passions. I've been coaching high school athletes. Co-founder of Bradshaw Personal Fitness. Again, we've had that for over 30 years, which we specialize in one-to-one training, group fitness, athletic performance. I've, in the last couple of years, taken a couple of twists and turns and have started getting into presenting and writing. I've had a few articles on Simply Faster, started a blog of my own, Substack, have created a presentation called A Coach's Job, which was just featured on Anthony Rennis podcast, strengthcoach.com. It's about, I speak about how to create a winning environment regardless of an athlete's talent and just my coaching journey. And I'd love to share, I want to share my information and my journey with all who want to listen.
Let's do it. Let's get right to it.
Okay.
So obviously these two ladies have just a wealth of coaching experience. They are working with young athletes day in and day out. They love what they do. They're here to serve the athlete. And that makes me ask the question, do you even pay attention that you're a female coach? Or are you more focused on just doing your job and doing it well? Eugenia, you want to start us off?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And to be honest with you, Erica, I've never even thought of that until maybe the recent years when people started to bring that to attention. I mean, I started way back, in the, I guess, like 90s or late 80s, whatever it was. And I worked in all kinds of venues, one-to-one, with group fitness, whatever it was. Worked in PT places, worked with athletes. And I never thought I can't do this because I'm a woman. And like you said, it is, and even back then, more so of a male-dominated field. But it never intimidated me. I've always had a great experience. I could go into any gym. And I remember because I went to school, my undergrad, Central Connecticut State U, and I worked in the athletic training room, and there weren't that many women. And I was in exercise science. My undergrad was exercise science. And there was a few other women in the athletic training room, and that's where I started. And I was working with football players and whatever. It was a little intimidating just because I was new and just working with the athletic population and stuff. But it wasn't, oh, I can't do this, I'm a woman. And then I used to go to, training like in other gyms or whatever. And I remember this place called Zach's in Hartford, Connecticut, I believe it was, but it was a meathead gym. I never had an intimidation factor, never felt like I'm a girl, I can't go there. No matter where I was, that really was never a thought in my mind. It's just like, I want to get smarter. I want to get better. I want to help people. I want to do my job. It wasn't a thought in my mind, honestly. And then coaching, the other thing, when you start working with athletes, I never thought, oh, you're a woman, you're a mom, you have kids, you can't do this. Was it challenging? Yeah. But can you do it? Yes, of course, because I've been doing it for a while and I've got 5 kids. But I never thought I wanted to stop because I'm so passionate about it and I love doing it. And honestly, it was an asset to me to having my kids because they're all athletic in different sports. And I knew a lot of my athletes and there was a lot of, 6 degrees of separation, and it just enriched it and made it better. And so and I know sometimes it can be difficult for moms because you have young kids, but it's definitely something you can do. And like I said, I never thought, oh, you're a woman, you can't do this. Never. It was just like, and now I'm coaching, I coach boys. So I even asked the athletic director, because I coached all girls, then I coached boys and girls. I had the whole program. And then I said, just give me the boys because they needed more help. And he was a little hesitant. And I think because I'm a woman, not because I'm a woman, just because he thought boys need a male coach, but no problem. They're absolutely, I have no problems there. So it's definitely a great experience.
I think you just speak to something so amazing here. And it's like, just master your craft as a coach. And it doesn't matter if you're a male or female coach, right, or you coach male or female athletes. If you're good at what you do, you will be able to deliver in either environment and get respect and do well with your colleagues or the athletes that you work with. And I think it's just so interesting how only in recent years, this whole idea of women in a male dominated industry just like started getting blasted on Twitter and just in our space. And it's like, wait a minute, I never even like thought of it this way. I've just been too busy studying and trying to do better here. So it's just so interesting that it's like being like pushed so hard. And another thing I see, and Jenna, I want to turn it over to you, but a lot of female coaches will say, well, it is harder being a female coach because we feel like we have to prove ourselves. Jenna, do you feel like it's harder as a female coach? And is proving yourself a bad thing?
No, absolutely not. I felt like besides the fact that my mom, I had a great leader, coach, mother who was able to kind of pave the way for me, as well as my dad. I never ever had a sense of like, oh, I'm the only woman here, I'm the only female in here, I'm not going to be able to do it, or they're going to judge me. Like, again, never had any fear walking into a gym and being scared because it's all guys or something like that. If anything, when I walk into a gym and let's just say I'm training someone, the females that are in the gym will gravitate towards you. So really, in turn, it works out for you as a female coach and trainer because they feel more comfortable with you. So innately, these women I can't even tell you the amount of times I've walked into a gym or like been messaged on social media and been like, oh, like, I really want to train with a female. Like, do you or your mom, have any openings or anything like that? So if anything, we're actually thriving in a sense because they feel more comfortable with us. And to both of your points in terms of it's about quality. It's about quality and it's about being a nice person. And really it comes down to the experience. If your athletes and your clients feel comfortable with you and they feel good, then they're going to continue training and seeing you and they're going to feel comfortable and they're going to trust you. So, I'm actually highly confused as to how this whole thing got blasted with, being a female coach and why everyone gets so like offended. I'm not quite sure where there was such a turn. I mean, if anything, it was harder for women to be trainers and coaches when my mom was starting out in the field. So I'm like really confused.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I mean, we've come a really long way. I mean, women coaches can own their own businesses now, and there's really no cap to what they can do. A lot of women are getting professional jobs with professional teams or division 1 colleges because these universities and these academies or these organizations are pushing to hire women over men, and it doesn't even matter, if the man might be more qualified or the woman's less qualified. Like, women actually do have a leg up in some senses, and I'm still just trying to understand what the complaints are here as far as women don't have it as good. I think the pendulum may have swung a little bit more in our direction, and we should be grateful for that, or at least look for the gratitude in situations. Eugenia, do you have anything to add on to that?
Yes. I mean, I think one important thing we can do as women and young girls or young women can do to make an impact in the field is to really hone your craft and become educated. I mean, and I know you, because I follow some of the same speed guys. You're into speed like I am, speed development and all that kind of stuff. Like Tony Holler, I saw your podcast with him, which was great. I'm a big Les Spellman. I'm taking his 6-week course. I don't know if there's any other women in the course. I might be wrong, but it's a virtual, once a week and, plus the lessons and everything. But don't be afraid. Just think, that was never a thought. When I say, for instance, when I said, oh my God, it's Les Spellman, I'm definitely taking this. And I never thought, I'll be the only woman in there. That wasn't a thought. I was like, well, he's so intelligent and he knows speed, or, I'm going to take this course. No, become educated, become confident, and do your talk. Like I always say, do your talking on the track or do your talking on the field. When your athletes become better athletes, who's she training? Who's he training with? Then you turn heads, because maybe people will look at you, she's a woman, she's coaching, the boys. Does she even know what she's doing? People may think that. I never, I don't pay attention to that. But I always tell my athletes, so you're talking on the track. Very simple. If you know what you're doing, you're confident, you're educated, you can do whatever you want, honestly. You can do whatever you want and help as many athletes as you can if you're passionate about it.
Let's go down that road. So it is, at the end of the day, about serving the athlete, and we need to take the focus off what we're fighting for as coaches personally. So does anyone want to add on to that?
That I just did, a coach's job. I had a slide in it, and it was a picture, it was a slide of a conductor. And if you look at a conductor conducting his orchestra and conducting, his musicians, his back is to the audience. And I use that as an analogy to think, when the audience is looking, they're not looking at the conductor, they're looking at the musicians because they're the stars. And as coaches, I feel that that's what we should do. We have to turn, it's not about us, it's about them. We're there to elevate them. We're there to help them, whatever or however we can. So we need to take the focus off, whether you're a man or whether you're a woman, whatever, you're a coach. And I feel as a coach, that's my job and that's what I want to do. And that's what gives me joy. And I'm sure you and Gena, when we see our athletes elevate to the next level, no matter what their talent is, no matter where they start. I'm not saying that they have to be D1 athletes or, we already, it doesn't matter about the D1, 2, or 3, but as long as we elevate them to the next level and help them to meet their goals, whatever their goals are, it's about them and we shine the light on them. It's not about us. So that's how I feel.
Jen, I'll turn it back to you. And we've talked about this on the Girls to Queens podcast, but do you mind being called a female coach? Because I'm on Twitter, you guys, and I've seen it all. I've seen all the complaints, and I've seen female coaches get mad that they're called female coaches. Does this bother you at all? And why do you think people are triggered by that?
I could absolutely care less. I think it's a total egocentric cop-out. I have no clue why that should be the focus of anything, because again, it's not about you, it's about your clients and your athletes. And it makes no sense why you're getting offended by words. I mean, like, you're born a female, so like I don't get why you would be so offended by that. I mean, if you're a good coach and you're more concerned with your athletes and your proteges, that wouldn't even bother you. That wouldn't even trigger you. So I don't know why people have to go on social media to put their complaints on blast and their insecurities and all the other things that go into it. I think it's just very egocentric, and I think that it needs to end because it's absolutely ridiculous.
I've been trying to understand it as well, and I'm just still, wrestling with a lot of what I see on Twitter in my mind. And Eugenia, you've talked at a lot of conferences and you've attended a lot of conferences, and another complaint I see is, well, it's an all male lineup, or there's just one female coach on the lineup. And I can see why people would get mad because it is male dominated, but there could be different reasons for a lineup like that, instead of just pointing the finger at, oh, it's sexist, or the organizer of this conference just doesn't like women. And it's just a very weird and quick assumption to make when this industry just doesn't attract a lot of women. And you're a mom, you own a business, it's hard work, this job. So how do you feel about this whole conference lineup thing? Like, should it be 50-50, or the numbers just not adding up? What's going on with that?
I just don't think that the women maybe make themselves available, or step up. For instance, I had never really worked on, I've had a lot of information, but I wanted to learn how to present it. So what did I do? I worked with a communications coach. I worked with Jenny Rearick, Fit to Speak. I enrolled in a class, and I learned how to put together a presentation. So now she had this thing, it was called the Speakers League, and there was a few women in there. If we don't make ourselves known or available, then how are we going to get out there? We have to have something to say. We have to be educated. And there's plenty of educated women in this field, and and I know. And so I did that, and I messaged Anthony Renner, right? And I was like, Anthony, I did this presentation. Maybe it's something you want to talk about. Yeah, he loved it. Text me the next day, you want to be on the podcast. So just as women, if we take those steps to make ourselves known or available, or that we have something to say and something to share that can help others, then we're out there just as much as the men. But when I go to a conference, I don't think I ever say, like, I go to the Perform Better or wherever I go, I don't say, oh, there's not enough women here. I really never thought of that. I just think about the content that's there. I don't think they're doing it to be sexist. I don't think, oh, she's a woman, she's not going to speak. I don't know. I don't think they are. And I never really thought about that. I just said, oh, they're really smart, and I want to hear what they have to say, and I'm going to learn from it, and then I'm going to share it. That's all. So I think we just have to put ourselves out there and be able to present, and be able, like you do. You have something to say. You're educated. You guys have a podcast. Two strong, intelligent, smart women who now are out there. You both have your own business. You both wrote books. That's perfect. that's a perfect example to inspire younger women. I think that's just what we all have to do, is support each other.
That's such a good point. And I have seen that a lot, that there are so many intelligent women in our field who are just hiding. And I've had messages with a lot of these women, and I ask, well, why aren't you tweeting and sharing information on how to work with young athletes? I mean, your stuff is so good. And they're afraid. And then they're like, well, I'm not getting opportunities or invited to conferences. And it's like, well, you need to have the courage to step forward, even if that means your work might get criticized or you might mess up. I mean, that's inevitable in this industry,
Yeah.
and that's what comes with social media and content creation. But stick with it. And like Eugenia said, you have to be as loud as the men in our industry. I mean, I see men tweeting all the time, and I'm like, you know what? That fires me up. Like, let's go. And, it's just everyone's just inspiring each other. And I think it is just crucial and just inspirational for young girls. Just be bold and speak up. Otherwise, opportunities, they're not going to come knocking on your door, and no one's going to know how good you are at your craft or the amazing impact you're making with your athletes. So thank you for sharing that. Gena, do you have anything to add on?
Yeah. I mean, just like what my mom said, Erica and I literally contacted Anthony Arena to see if we can get on the Strength Coach podcast. And he said yes. Ask and you shall receive. Like, put yourself out there. Again, if you're not going to put action towards what you want to achieve, it's just like not going to happen overnight. It's not anything where, like you just said, opportunities are not going to be knocking on your door if you're not going to put effort into it. So, I mean, for people to be complaining, oh, like I'm not invited to this or I'm not invited to that. I mean, you didn't put yourself out there. If you're not going to put yourself out there, then how are people going to know who you are? And I agree with you, Erica. I think a lot of it comes down to fear. I think a lot of women are really scared to like step forward. A lot of them are just scared to like utilize their voice. It's really important to utilize your voice because I mean, other people care what you have to say. Your story will inspire at least one person. So, utilize that. And that's how you can, gain confidence and, then you can be consistent. And then with consistency, you can get yourself out there. So don't be scared. It's really not that bad. Just get out there.
Gena, I'm glad you brought up the message we sent to Anthony Arena to do Strength Coach podcast. And we were sitting in the same room when we both sent the message. And we were both like, what's worst case scenario? He says no, and we just keep it moving. We keep going on with our life, and like we'll be fine. Like we got other stuff going on. We're writing books and blogging and coaching our athletes. Like it's okay. And you are going to get no's once in a while. Like even if you put yourself out there, not every opportunity is going to say yes, and that's okay. That just comes with it. So thank you for sharing that. And another thing I do want to say, as far as Jena's point, is like Gena got really into writing and freelance blogging. I mean, and Eugenia, you as well, you guys started writing for stack.com, Simply Faster, but you reached out and you had the appropriate connections. You put in the work for the networking to be able to get those gigs, but you also have the writing craft to show for it. You guys have been consistent with your writing in your own time. And again, it really comes down to just being consistent and just showing up. And I just want young girls to go into these industries, especially coaching, and be ready to be consistent with all this stuff and to not live in fear, to not go in as a victim. You are not a victim at all. Is there any other advice you guys would give for young girls entering in coaching?
I'll go. As far as advice for young women, young girls, like I said, educate yourself and start writing at a younger age. I never really did. And when I started this whole process, especially working with Jenny, I was terrified. Put myself out there. I want to do a presentation. I have all this information and experience and education, and I want to share it, but I was afraid. And I said, you know what? I was very out of my comfort zone. And so when I started, and every time something good would happen, like I would write an article for Simply Fast, and I was like, Jenna, they accepted it. She's like, yeah, well, of course they did. She's got a little bit more confidence because I taught her well. It's a little bit different. I started that a little later in life, but now I'm getting yeses. And the same thing, I was like, all right, I'm just going to shoot Anthony a text and see what happens. I was like, he said, yes. Can you be on the podcast tomorrow? I was like, yeah. So those little things they build onto your confidence. So start these things young. And like you said, you're going to get no's, and your first no may really sting, but that's okay. Maybe it wasn't the right venue for you or the right opportunity, but the right one will come. And the first time you speak in front of somebody, it's going to be terrifying, but you'll learn from it. And when I did my presentation, or if I do something, I'll, shoot Jenny. I said, Jenny, what could I do better? What, you ask for critical, like, not someone to criticize you, but useful information, how you can be better at whatever you're doing. So don't be afraid, put yourself out there and start writing young. That's what I'm going to say. Definitely. Like you guys did. And look, you both have books, published books. That's amazing.
So true. I mean, yeah, it's like you start young and you just put in the work even when you're not getting any recognition for it. And you keep going if you're still not getting recognition, because you love what you do, and you just want to keep showing up. And I think those are the most powerful years when you're a young coach, is that grind. And I hate to say it, I mean, we've all been there, you guys, and it's very real. And I want young girls to go in expecting it's not going to be a cakewalk. I mean, it's a really tough industry, especially if you want to be a private sector strength coach and have your own business. But also there's costs that come with working for a college or an organization or a professional club. And I do want to get into that a little bit. Is there such thing as a work-life balance with coaching? Is, like, Eugenia, you raised 5 kids while building this business.
Yeah.
And Jenna, I know you worked at a corporate gym for many years, 8 to 10 hour days, maybe longer. And it was just a grind. And is there a way to eventually get to that work-life balance? Jenna, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I definitely think there is a work-life balance. I know others would disagree, but I believe if you're very passionate about what you do and you love what you do, it's kind of not work. I love to write. I love to talk about sports and training and nutrition and wellness advice, and like those are the things that I love. And I mean, at the end of the day, you learn all those things, you start broad, and then you can become more specific with your niche and what you want to do. And like my mom said, start early, like start getting involved in different things at an early age, like writing and speaking. Like if you really want to get your voice out there and get over that like fear, start speaking and start writing, get it out there. Like who even cares? I know so many women who are scared to like make videos simply for social media purposes. It's like, just do it. Just do the video. Who cares? Practice, like get in the reps, and you'll feel a lot better after. Like, even though like you're gonna criticize yourself, but that's called imposter syndrome. And a lot of us need to work on that. And so be consistent, don't give up. And yeah, I mean, personally, like I said, many might disagree with the work-life balance, but I personally believe that you can achieve that. Maybe not in the beginning years of when you're really, getting those hours in and things like that, but eventually you can definitely get there 100%.
Coming from a mom's point of view, you're going to grind. You're going to grind. And maybe in the beginning, your life-work balance is going to be more work. But like Jenna said, if you love it, it doesn't always, especially when you're younger, I think, in this field, and I felt that way because I was in it 24/7, working, training myself, training others, doing whatever. And that lived it, breathed it, it was a day-to-day thing. And I never felt it was work. But I'm going to add, when you do have kids, it's not easy. Now, here's the thing, what you have to remember. When you have kids, if you love what you do, you'll find a way to do it. I mean, I would drag them. They remember, I would drag them to practice. I would drag them to classes I would teach. I would drag them to, my husband and I would do strength and conditioning for different teams. We would drag them on the field and give them a job. Now, would it have been easier to say, no, I'm not going to do that. Just I'll stay home and watch the kids. But no, I dragged them. And now look, they're all involved. They love it. And there's lots of lessons to be taught. The love of health and fitness, of taking care of yourself, and showing that we are so passionate about what we do that we involved you and we kept doing it. And I kept doing it. Honestly, it would have been sometimes easier. Was I tired? Yeah. Was there definitely more work than life balance? Yes, definitely. But here I am now. I've established myself. And because I put the groundwork in, and I think that's what you have to remember, especially when you have to have a family, you have to put the groundwork in. You have to make the connections. Maybe you don't take a head coaching position. Maybe you take an assistant coaching just to keep your foot in the door. Maybe you talk to the AD and say, listen, I got kids. Can I just, come to practice? I can't do the meets, or I can't do find a way. Volunteer, even volunteer. If that's what you want to do and you want to keep in the game, volunteer. And for what Gena was talking about, speaking, volunteer to speak at a school, speak to a team, educate about nutrition, about mobility, whatever it is. You make so many connections, and then people remember you. And it actually feels good because you're doing what you love to do. And that's one thing I always did all these years, is to stay connected and keep my foot in the door, no matter what was going on, with my kids or at home. And I was able to be present because I don't think my kids are lacking for anything. I think they're pretty solid. I mean, look. So I think that's important as a woman who has kids, to keep your foot in the door.
And that's just so encouraging for young women getting into the field who are worried, well, what if I want to start a family? Can I make it work? And
yes,
yeah, you absolutely can,
100%.
But it's going to be a grind. And like you, Genia, said, it's not going to be easy some days, but if you just see it not necessarily as work, but it's just like that work-life integration, you're integrating your work into the things you do in your personal life because you love it and you enjoy showing up for your work. And yes, there might need to be specific boundaries set. Maybe you don't do work on Sundays and you use that time for leisure and family. Like, those are boundaries for you to decide, and you can decide them as you get more into coaching, especially when you're further along into business. So guys, you can do both. You can have your own thing and you can raise a family. I think there's just like this fear that, women can't do it, but they can if that's what they choose. And I think there's a lot more flexibility. And if you guys want to chime in on this, I think there's way more flexibility for women owning their own coaching business as opposed to chasing that dream of working in the NCAA or climbing the professional team ladder. And look, if that's what makes you happy and that's what you want to do, great. But I can name several women on two hands who have left these high-level organizations because they are shackled by management, not just in the hours that they work and the lack of flexibility in their schedule, but they're shackled in their programming. They can't really impact the athletes as much as they want because they're butting heads with the AD or the head coach who doesn't want them to program like single leg squats or deadlifts. And they don't feel like they're creating impact or they are doing the work they're called to do. So I personally like the business route. If you guys have anything to add to that and what to expect to start your business.
I love working with high school kids. I mean, we work with college also, especially in the summer, but I think coaches don't understand the impact we can have with high school kids. We can change their trajectory, their whole high school experience. I've seen it. I've had numerous athletes contact me after the fact, years later, what a difference it made in their life. because of the team culture, because of their experience. And I'm not talking about, kids who went on to D1 programs. I'm just talking, I call them kids, but they're young adults now who had an incredible experience in high school, went on to college, and the things that they learned as an athlete, changed their life, really. The way they went through high school for the better, and I've had notes from kids, thank you for making 10th grade better. I mean, Gena knows, she works with them. To me, it is so rewarding, and I'm so passionate about it. And I think coaches and women should definitely take a look at working with high school kids, because what a difference can you make in a kid's life, to work with that age bracket, because they can either go down this road or, the high road or the low road. And it's not only the physical, the athletic side, but the psychological. You work with them psychologically, nutrition, they tell you all kinds of things. You can really be a mentor and really help them out on so many different levels. I find that just priceless. So, I mean, that's what I think.
I totally agree. We need more coaches, especially women, working with these younger kids. I mean, there's so much impact, and I just love your story that years down the road after you stop working with them, they still look back and they're like, wow, like training with Coach Gena was amazing and it changed my life. And that's just so much more powerful than a Division I scholarship. I mean, it's commendable to go Division I and get a scholarship, but man, to be able to take fitness and performance nutrition for the rest of their lives, that is so incredible.
Yeah, it is. It's when they contact you years later, and that's the measure of a good coach, I think, is when your lessons that you taught them, you didn't even realize you were teaching them. They contact you years later. I'll tell a quick story. When I was coaching all girls at Sacred Heart Academy, I would give the girls a word because they were terrified to race. And I'd say, okay, your word is strong. Your word is fierce. Write it on your arm. And before we'd race. And I say, concentrate. That's your mantra while you're racing. That's your mantra. Think about that word. 4 or 5 years later, one of the girls posted something and her word was strong. And it was on, a sports bra, and it said strong. And she tagged me, and I'm like, oh my goodness, she remembered. And that stuck in her head, and she had anxiety or whatever, and she was afraid to compete, but she carried that with her through college. And years later, that made such an impact, and something that I thought was just to help them to get through, the race, or to make them stronger mentally, because that's what I wanted to do, make them stronger mentally. And it lasted, for years, and they'll never forget that. So that's what we also have to think about as coaches, the impact we're going to have down the road.
I love that. Gena, any cool stories from young athletes? I mean, you've shared a couple with me in the past few weeks, which have been awesome.
Yeah, I can attest to all of the athletes that contact us over the years. I mean, for example, I work with specifically the throwers and the field events. And one athlete in particular, our thrower, he had like a 7-foot PR from last year to this year. And his mom came up to me at one of the track meets and was like, you have no idea how impactful this has been on him, just from being a part of the team, and like, you guys coaching them and coaching them up. It's like my mom said, impactful, very impactful. And these kids remember it, and you can really change the trajectory of their lives. And we all have seen horrendous coaches that should not be working with the youth. And you can see the difference that it makes in the athlete, and how it really doesn't pay off in the end. So yeah, I mean, there's so many different examples. Like, I think that's just like hit the nail on the head. Like, when your athletes down the road contact you and let you know, like, hey coach, you had such an impact on me, and I remember this from my sophomore year, my junior year. It's I mean, I don't even have words to describe it, because you're just like, oh my gosh, like, you remember that? I didn't even realize what an impact that had on you. So it's really cool to see. And I mean, I even trained someone as 11 years old, and he lets me know how impactful it is. He's like, oh my gosh, like, look at the muscles I'm getting. I feel so good. And he's more concerned with like his health instead of like what's on YouTube or social media, how your body's supposed to look and all these trends and all the garbage that's out there. So again, like, you're really changing their brain chemistry, their mental health, their physical health, their overall being. And I mean, nothing gets better than that, really.
This brings me back to earlier in the conversation when we were discussing how female coaches shouldn't be wasting their time on Twitter complaining about certain things in the industry, and instead they can be out there making so much impact and really showing up for their athletes and working in an environment where they can create that impact. And I'm not saying that there aren't problems in certain organizations. There definitely are workplace harassment. I've heard horrific stories, but I've also seen women know their worth and know that when to leave a work environment, when to speak up, and when to go elsewhere to be treated better, but also to have more of an impact. And this episode was all about things that you can control as a coach. And it's about your athletes. It's about serving them. So I'm really appreciative of this discussion. And I hope young girls listening really find it encouraging and helpful. And if you guys have any questions, please follow up with Gena and Eugenia. And guys, where can everyone find you?
Okay, so you can find us at bpfit.com, also at bpfitcoaching. And then my handle is at Gena Bradshaw. And then you'll have all my information with where you can find my book and also like other courses and holistic health route.
And you can find me the same, bpfit.com, bpfit coaching. And my handle is at Coach_Bradshaw4. So that's my other Instagram. I'm on Twitter too. I follow you, Erica.
Yeah, we'll convince Gena to get on Twitter soon, but
I don't know.
It's the Wild West on Twitter.
It sure is.
But guys, check out their contact information as well as programs in the caption below. And thank you again for listening to this conversation, and we hope it helps. See you next time.